Hello everybody, my name is Father Zacharias, and today I'm going to show you how to make a Komboskini, or an Orthodox prayer rope. Some of the things that you'll need to make your prayer rope. I've got some scissors here, very sharp sewing scissors that I only use for cutting yarn and rat tail, so they stay nice and sharp. I've got a number of wooden pony beads, and this is what I will use if I'm making a rope that's longer than 33 knots. I like to put one of these every 25 knots or so if I'm making a 100 knot rope. If I'm making a 50 knot rope, then maybe I would still put it after 25. An important thing to consider when getting your beads is the inside diameter of the bead. You want to make sure that you're going to be able to fit all the ends of yarn or rat tail through so that it'll go on. Probably the most important thing, however, is a good pair of tweezers. Now you'll use this to work on the knots, as you'll see a little bit later, but you want to make sure you've got a nice pair of tweezers, especially if you're working with yarn. The yarn pulls tighter than the rat tail, and so you'll need something to pull it through. I've got my measurements here that I keep in my box. Lets me know how much material I will need depending on the material and also the length of the rope that I'm wanting to do. I've also got here a piece of yarn that I have marked every foot. Let me undo it so you can see. Every foot I have marked it with a black marker, and I use this actually to measure out how much yarn or rat tail that I will need in order to complete the rope, rather than having to keep a tape measure or something like that. I'm going to be using a material called rat tail, 1/8 of an inch. This is a good material to start with because it's very silky, so it's easy to undo a knot if you do something wrong. You can quickly fix it. And I'm using two colors here. Typically you would just use black, but I'm using two separate colors to help show you all what is going on. So holding my two strings together and using my measurements, I'm going to make a 33 knot rope, so I know that I need 20.5 feet total of material. So each of these is actually 10.5 feet long, just to give me some extra to play with. And I have, it says here 3.5 feet top. So I want to measure out 3.5 feet, and that's where I'm going to create a loose knot in order to start the rope. So using a piece of yarn that I marked and making sure that I don't pull the yarn to stretch it, I'm going to measure it out. So here I'm going to make just a loose knot that I'll be able to get out later. Making sure it's about where I had my fingers. Like so. So to begin making the first knot, you're going to place this loose knot that you made on top of your index finger with the string coming down each side. So I've got the blue end on my left, the brown end on the right. And I like to hold the loose end in my fingers like this so that I can keep it tight while I'm working with it. Otherwise, it can just move all around, and if it's loose, it'll be harder to work with than if you keep it tight. Like I said, you're going to put your index finger underneath that first knot, and we're going to take the end on the right side, and we're going to bring it under and over the thumb, going clockwise. Under and over the thumb. You're going to, holding that string tight, you're going to grab the loop at the bottom of the thumb, stretch it out, and put your middle finger underneath it. And then reaching through this hole here that you've now made, you're going to reach through, grab the blue, and then while holding it, you're going to drop the right side off of your thumb and put the left side onto your thumb. And then if you hold the ends tight, you've got a square in the middle of your palm. So I'll do that one more time. So, placing index finger under the knot, going to bring the right side around the thumb, starting from the bottom clockwise. You're going to grab this material on your thumb, and you're going to pull it and place it over your middle finger. Then reaching in between, you're going to grab the left side string, and dropping the loop off of your thumb, you're going to put the left side string on, and then when you pull it tight, you'll have a square in the middle of your palm. Once you have the square in the middle of your palm, for the next step, you're going to bring the left side string underneath the right, in between the pinky and the ring finger, and you're going to bring it up in between the middle and the index finger, and you're going to put it into this hole right here and pull it through. Once you do that, you'll see if I bring this left side string over, I've got an X now in the middle of my hand with the brown and the blue. What I'm going to do is I'm going to squeeze the sides of the X, not the top of the X, the sides of the X, and I'm going to pull and bring all those strings over my thumb. Then, taking the right side string, I'm going to do sort of the same thing. I'm going to go in between the pinky and the ring, up, in between the middle and the index finger, and this time I'm going to bring it around these top section of strings here. So I'm going to go over and then out the middle. Okay, now grabbing the left side string again, I'm going to go in between the pinky and the ring finger, up in between the index and the middle finger, and this time, if you see, there's an area right underneath my index finger. I'm going to put this end through there and then out the middle so that I end up now with this sort of more complicated square. All right, I'll demonstrate that section one more time. Pass the left string under the right, in between the pinky and the ring finger, up in between the index and the middle finger, and through this hole. Then, pinching the sides of the X, I'm going to put those strings around my thumb. Taking the right side string, I'm going to go in between the pinky and the ring finger, up between the index and the middle finger, around this set of strings at the top and through. Then taking the left side string between the pinky and the ring finger, up between the index and the middle finger, and this time going around those strings right underneath the index finger. Okay, now for the next section, what you're going to do is you want to find the string that's around your thumb and that goes to the index finger. So you can do that by just tugging on the ends. That obviously isn't it. That obviously isn't it because it's a blue string here. But here, I found it. So holding that string, I'm going to drop the other two off of my thumb and then put just this one back around my thumb, like so. Now taking the other side, you want to find the string that goes underneath the middle finger. You want to grab it, drop the rest of the strings off of your ring and your middle finger, and then place that one that you're holding back onto the middle finger. And then you want to pull these loose ends so that a knot forms in the middle, like so. Demonstrating this section again. You want to find the string that goes around your thumb and to the index finger. Holding on to that string, drop the other two off of your thumb and just put this one back onto the thumb. Find the string that is underneath the middle finger, grasp it, drop the rest of the strings off of your middle and your ring finger, and then put that loop back onto the middle finger and pull tightly to make a knot in the middle of your finger, or in the middle of your hand. So that's the first half of the knot. So I'm going to take this, you see how it's kind of twisted? I'm going to take it, I'm going to untwist it and put it back on my finger. At this point, what you can do is you can actually remove it off of your fingers completely. You want to slide this half knot up to the knot that's right above it. And you can do that by pulling the top side of these loops. So pull this here, pull the top side here, so that it's resting up against the previous knot. Now for the next part, I'm going to take all of these ends, I'm going to grasp them in my hand except for the right side loop. We're going to work on just this loop. And this is where you're going to want to get your tweezers. And what you're looking for is, you see the bottom of the loop goes into this knot and it passes underneath this blue string here and comes out the other side. What you want to do is to take it where it comes out and you just want to pull that loop through until it forms another loop. Then I'm going to turn the whole thing over in my hand, looking at the top side now. You see where it goes underneath the string and out the other side? I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to grab that and just pull it through. Then turning it back again, I'm going to do the same thing one last time. This time, instead of going underneath a blue string, it goes underneath itself. But it comes out the other side just like the other ones. So I'm going to grab it and pull it through. And that side is done. So now I'm going to put it in my palm and I'm going to pull out the blue loop in this case. And I'm going to do the same exact thing. I'm going to see where it goes underneath the string, comes out, and I'm just going to pull it through. I'm going to turn it over. This time it actually goes through the loop, so it's easy to just pull it through the loop. Okay. Turning it back over, same thing. This time it goes underneath a blue, but it comes out right there, I can see it. So I'm going to grab it and pull it through. And make sure you pull it tight. Now, if you did this part correctly, you should be able to pull on the loose ends coming out the bottom of the knot and it'll actually suck those loops into the knot. So now pull the brown one. Pull it tight. And there you have the knot. All right, I'll demonstrate that section one more time. So I've made the half knot, and I've taken my fingers out, and I'm going to slide this knot up to the top by pulling on the tops of these loops. Okay, so now it's resting up against the knot right above it. And then I'm going to put all of the strings except for the right end and the top strings, which these will be a lot longer in your actual working rope. You're going to put all the strings except for the right loop into the palm of your hand, and you're going to look at the bottom of this loop and find where it goes underneath one string and comes out the other side. You're going to take your tweezers and pull that through. Flip it over. Find where the top string goes underneath one and out the other. One side and out the other. Pull it through. Flip it back over one last time. Find out where it goes under, comes back out, and pull it through for the third time. Now putting this loop in the palm of my hand, I'm going to pull the other one out and do the same exact thing. So it goes underneath and out here. Goes underneath the other loop that's in your hand, so the easiest one to figure out. And then for the last time, underneath and out, pull it through. And if you've done it right, you can now pull on these bottom strings. I'm going to tighten this up a little bit more because it was loose. There we go. I'm going to pull on the bottom strings and it will suck those loops into the knot, finishing it. Now if you're pulling and nothing's happening, you did something wrong. And then I'm going to take this top knot out since it was my first one. And there we have the first completed knot of the Komboskini. All right, now that we've got all 33 knots completed, it's time to join this into its proper shape. So to do this, I'm going to start out making a knot like normal, but then once I get to that sort of messy square stage that I mentioned, we're going to stop and we're going to form it into its shape. So. And I keep these, when I'm doing it, pretty small and tight, just to make it easier to work with. If it's real loose or big, then it can get hard for it to do it like it needs to be done. All right, so this is that messy square stage that I mentioned, It's right before the step where you would be finding the string that goes around your thumb to your finger and dropping the rest off of your fingers. So once you get to this point, what you're going to do is you're going to take the other end of the rope, pass it from the back through that center hole, and I just want the loose strings. I don't want any of the knots to actually go through. I just want the strings. And I'm going to put them up over my hand here so they're out of the way, and then I'll finish making the knot. Okay, so I've tightened it up. And then, so here's the top ends. I'm going to pull the tops of the loop to move this knot up. And then what I'm also going to do is to pull on those loose ends to bring the other end of the rope together, like so. And then I'll just finish up this knot. Okay, and then I'll pull on the other ends too, just to make sure that everything is sitting tight together. So now it's in the shape, and so the last bit to do is to form the cross. And so for a 33 knot prayer rope, I will use one knot on top. My next knot, when I get to the part where I would be pulling it tight against the previous knot, I'm actually going to leave just a little bit of space. And this is because I'm going to form the cross beam in that space. So I'm going to have one knot, a little bit of a space, and then two more knots, and then we'll get to the cross beam when we're there. One thing that I usually like to do, just to make sure that this stays nice and secure, is now when I make this next knot, instead of using the loose ends that I've been using, I'm going to use those loose ends from the top of the cross and then slide the loose ends from the bottom through that messy square. That way things are just pulling tight and hopefully staying secure. So I'll go ahead and do that now. Okay, so I've almost got the second knot made. I'm at that step where you would move the knot up, and as you can see, I left just a little gap in between for the crossbar. So we'll go ahead and finish this. And I'll pull on it a little bit just to make sure that that space remains. All right, and then we're going to do one more, and then we will start the cross beam. Right, so now we have the vertical part of the cross, and it's time just to do the cross beams. So what I'll do now is, using my scissors, first I'm going to determine about how long I want my tassel to be. We'll do it about here. And then you're going to just snip off these ends. Like so. And then you're going to use what was left to do both the cross beams and the tassel. And I had an end start to unravel on me, so I just tied a knot into it to keep it going. Okay, after cutting off the ends, you want to find the two strings that are longest, and you're going to use them to form the crossbar. So you're just going to use one at a time. And you're going to double it up so that you can find the middle right there. And what you want to do is you want to put the middle right over and into the little area that we left, that space that we left open. And then you're going to use this string to form another knot. And you'll do that just like you've been doing with everything else. Now, if you're using my measurements, you'll notice there's not a lot of material left at the end here to work with, so it can be a little challenging. But I did actually go through and find out for both the yarn and the rat tail exactly how much material you needed without a lot of waste left over. So be a little careful here. You got to make sure things stay tight so that you actually have enough left to work with. You can always add more to your measurements. Add another foot, add another half a foot, whatever you want to do in order to make this step a little easier if it's difficult. And then at the step where you would just pull it up to the knot above it, just go ahead and do that and make sure it rests nice and tight against the rest of the rope. So like that. And then just keep making the knot like normal. And then you have one knot of the crossbeam done. And you can trim off the excess now. I like to take a lighter to the end, burn this down with the yarn and with this actually. If it's a synthetic yarn, the fibers actually melt together and it keeps it from fraying. Or you can leave them out there if you like. All right, so now I'm just going to use the other string to do the other knot. Slide it up underneath the previous knot of the crossbeam and into that space. And then make sure it's about centered and make the knot. Again, not much material left here, but that's good, less waste. Have the second cross beam, second knot of the cross beam now. So you can see we've got our little cross at the end. Snip this excess material off. Okay, and now all that's left is the tassel. So using what was left from the rope so far, remember I said as little waste as we could, we're going to use these strings to make the tassel. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay them all out, trying to find the centers of each, roughly, of course. And if you have if you have a whole lot of extra, see if I fold it over, this will be the tassel. If you had a whole lot of extra, you might even be able to cut some of the longer ones in half and add them to the tassel as well. So I'm just going to take this whole bundle and using these strings that are coming out from the bottom, I'm going to place them in and I'm going to use two of these strings just to tie all these other ones in. just formed a knot. Okay, so this is what my tassel would look like. And actually, I'm gonna take one out because I need it to tie the tassel together. All right, so it looks pretty good. I'm just gonna double knot this in here. Well, can't find the original string, so I'll just use 2 more. Double knot it, just make sure it's nice and tight. Okay. All right. So now what I'll do is I'll take this last string and I'll just wrap it around this bundle here, and that will make my tassel. Now with the rat tail, the tassel will look a little bit poofier, perhaps up here. I'm not sure what the right word is, just because it's thicker. The yarn lays flatter, so the tassel looks, in my opinion, a little better. I like to turn it over and then double knot it. Got a frayed end here. Okay. So this part right here where we knotted it, you see how it's sticking out a little bit more with the rat tail. Then you just go and you trim all of these off, again at about however long you want your tassel to be. Some ends are going to be shorter than the others, and that's okay. So let's see. It's usually better to start longer and have to cut shorter if you need to, rather than it being too short as soon as you cut it. So we'll just kind of squeeze that together, and there you have it, a Komboskini. As you use it, these knots will lay down and shape themselves better, and same with the tassel. Once you kind of play with it a little bit, then it'll lay better. And I've got a little lighter here. As I said, I like to just singe the ends so that they will not fray. Push it down. There we are. And this is all the waste that I have left. Just a little bit. I hope you found these instructions easy to follow. I will have down below in the description a link to a guide that I made, a PDF guide that you can follow along. Lots of pictures in it, as well as hopefully detailed instructions and quotes about prayer from the Holy Fathers. Thank you very much. God bless.